where is this coming from? And I think there's no doubt about it. This is definitely throwing weight behind the far right in Israel, giving it US support to Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, and basically saying to the Palestinians, well, if you think that Donald Trump is going to support you, then you have to think again. Remember that back in the last Trump administration, there was this great plan, the plan of the century for peace in the Middle East, basically saying that Jerusalem was going to be the undivided capital of Israel, and that there would be a green light for annexing vast parts of the West Bank in favor of Israel as well. That was the plan put forward by Jared Kushner. The problem here is that if Donald Trump persists in this decision to go ahead with trying to pull the Palestinians out of the Gaza Strip and send them into Egypt and Jordan, this is putting a lot of pressure on both of those countries, and there are two possible outcomes. The first one is that both Egypt and Jordan refuse to take in the Palestinian refugees from the Gaza Strip. That is probably the most likely. That could lead to a financial crisis. Remember that the United States sends at least $1.4 billion a year to both countries. They could put pressure on them saying, we're going to withdraw our funding if you don't take in these Palestinian refugees. It will lead to a much wider crisis in the Middle East, because that funding then could be taken over by, for example, countries in the Gulf, and even Iran could see this as a way of fighting back against its position as being in the right against the United States and the United States' efforts to intervene in the Gaza conflict. The second possibility is that both countries give in to Donald Trump because they're scared of losing that financial backing. They take in those Gaza refugees. That's going to cause a huge political crisis in both countries, a humanitarian crisis in both countries, and both political instability and insecurity. So there is no real way out of this. So it's a very risky situation for both countries. And I think, as one commentator's put it today, it's like Donald Trump has thrown a hand grenade into the Middle East right now, which is destined to explode at any moment.
So Philip, where are these comments coming from then? Whether or not his idea is feasible, whether or not he was being serious or realistic, there is some background to those comments.
Well, if you look back at Donald Trump's first mandate and what he was planning to do, I mentioned Jared Kushner, I mentioned the plan of the century. A year ago in February 2024, Jared Kushner gave a speech to Harvard University where he outlined exactly this policy, saying what would be a good idea is to clean the Palestinians out of the Gaza Strip so we can rebuild it. Think of the value of the properties on the seafront in the Gaza Strip, how much that would be worth, how that could be turned into an idyllic area. For example, there could be a Trump hotel built there. So this is where it's coming from. It's nothing to do really with the Palestinians. It's like, get the Palestinians out and then we can make this into a much better area. And then maybe they'd be allowed to come back in. And he was asked during that interview, do you think that the Palestinians would be allowed back in by the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu? The answer to that was maybe. And do you think it would be a good idea to have a two-state solution in the Middle East? He said no, it certainly would not be a good idea. So I think you don't have to look very far to see where Donald Trump is coming from with these remarks that we've seen. But this is more than likely to upset the situation much more than it is to bring any kind of long-term solution to the problems of the Middle East. Remember, this is really between Israel and the Palestinians. This is a political, this is an ideological, and this is a religious conflict that needs two leaders on both sides to sort it out. And that's, unfortunately, at the moment, those two leaders don't exist.
In any case, those comments in the meantime certainly won't do much to make a political solution likely. Philip Turl, thank you very much.